All right, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com. We'll get this ready to roll here. Give me one moment. All right, the camera's looking pretty good. Sure, we're working online. All right, yeah, we're kind of coming along here. All right. All right, let me sure we're working. Pardon me with this new setup, but we should be going. All right, so we got people watching. Let's see if I got the camera working over here. I think we're okay. And we should be all right. Okay, look at that. Beautiful. All right, now I think the camera is pretty straight. That should be okay now. All right, let's get started. Today this is going to be, hopefully, a practical video for people. I know I spend a lot of time talking about how people should learn, so this will talk a little bit about that as well, but we'll also be just showing you exactly how this works without spending so much time, as I often do, about trying to help people understand the deeper things about learning and why we do what we do. But I hope you enjoy this video. So I want to make this actually pretty quick. I don't think it'll be very long, but we'll see if you have any examples that you would like me to cover. But I want to talk about the kinds of rules that fluent speakers are using. So even if they don't know they're using these rules, these are the rules they're using, whether these are native speakers or non-native people who are just really good at speaking the language. So a lot of people talk about not studying rules and not trying to learn grammar rules, and I'll explain more about how this actually works and the nuance here, because the idea is not just to not study rules, it's actually to help your brain understand how the language works. So I want to give you an example of this, actually a few different examples, but give you the deeper principle here about the rules that fluent speakers are actually using. And so, all right, make sure we can, all right, looks like we got hello, first comment there. All right, nice to see some like commenting actually working so far. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. All right, so I often talk about two ways of learning on this channel. There's the typical thing that most people do and isn't your fault. It's just the way most people learn languages. But you're essentially collecting more information. And information can be anything like a rule that you learn or some vocabulary, or you get a word list or something like that. And the idea is to try to remember as much of this as you can. So we're going to just draw a little, that's supposed to be a little brain. We'll just imagine this is a brain here. So we want to push as much information into the brain as possible. But this often doesn't work for people because just having information is like, okay, I understand you're telling me something like a translation or a definition of a word or something like that. But if you're not actually connecting with the information, then it's not helping you very much. So instead of information, the other way that I recommend, and this is what we'll be talking about. So there are kind of two ways of understanding rule understanding or learning rules for understanding English. And I'm actually a big fan of learning rules. I just don't teach it the way people typically do because that's just giving you more information about the language rather than actually helping you understand it. So what we're looking for instead of more information is pretty simple: transformation. And this is pretty easy to think about, where, again, information is just, oh, thank you for giving me some information. But when you get a transformation, that's where you think, oh, now I actually understand something and I'm able to use it. So information often does not, sometimes it can, but often does not lead to use. And this is the actual thing. So most of the time, you can think about, depending on what it is, most of the time language learning does not lead to use. It often leads to understanding. Maybe you can recognize other people when they speak, but you probably still have questions about things like which preposition is correct, or is this the right word, or does this sound natural, or anything like that. And so if we're getting information, we're trying to push more information into the brain, and that doesn't really lead to use of the language. And by use, I mean speaking. So again, people can understand things and not use them. This is usually the reason why. So you're giving your brain more information, but your brain is like, all right, what am I supposed to do with this? It's like just collecting more stuff, like more word lists or more facts about the language, but it's not really insight or helping you understand and connect with the information very well. So a transformation, again, same idea. We've got our brain over here, but we're actually trying to have our brain light up and think, now I get it. Now I understand why something works, or why we should use this word and not that word. And that's what we should be thinking in terms of use. And so what I do is try to give your brain, like all the videos I do, anytime I'm giving people aha moments, and these are those moments where you actually feel a transformation, where your mind thinks, okay, now I get it. So I understand something. I'm not just trying to give you more word lists or rules or things like that, more translations. This is also why I don't teach English in Japanese, although, like many people do that. But if you can actually have a transformation within English itself, then you will feel a lot more confident about speaking. Because ultimately what we're looking for here, we can just think about this as a regular timeline here. The moment where you make that transformation, that's what we're looking for here. The moment you have that transformation, before that, maybe you know something, but you can't use it. After that, now we can finally use it. So we're looking for this moment right here where we actually understand something and become able to use it. So what I'd like to do in this video is give a few examples of this. But this is basically the idea. We're not just looking for more information, and you can find information all over the place. You can look right here on YouTube. If I want to learn, get more information about grammar rules or, whatever, I can learn more vocabulary. But often people are learning but still don't have that ability to use the language because they really haven't had a transformation. And the transformation is the actual thing that allows you to speak. Because if you still feel unsure, you're probably going to have trouble expressing yourself. All right, so that's the foundation here, and we will look at this in just a moment. Let me go back and check comments, make sure everybody's, let's see if people have any particular questions. What I'd like to do is share a few examples just to help you understand this idea about what I do and how you can do this yourself. This is the same thing I talk about in my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. I talk a little bit more about this idea in chapter 8, which will be coming out soon. But if you have trouble speaking and you know a lot of the language already, but you'd like to actually be able to express yourself, then click on the link in the description below this video and you can get the book. So let me take a look here, see if anybody has anything I missed. We've got hello from people. Nice to see everybody there. I'm just trying to go through this very quickly. Let's see. I have an IELTS exam in a few weeks. What are the best techniques to help me achieve band 9 in speaking? Well, I would actually watch somebody talking about IELTS, which I do not do. So just to give you the best advice possible, I'm not going to give you any advice about specific tests, but you can find that anywhere. So if you're looking for how to get a good score on that, just search that on YouTube and you will probably find many videos. What I do, although it actually can help you on tests, which is just helping you speak better and know the language better, if you are trying to take a particular test, you should get the information that's best suited for that, with whatever test it is you're trying to take. MC, nice to see you there. Don't stay up too late. Let's see, and Mustafa says, I think if we need to use any language as second or third or etc., it sounds like a native, we should think In one language, I listen and practice the oral language, not the book, also sentences. Well, I'll show you what we're actually doing in this video right here, because this is the foundation or the basic understanding of it, the contrast between what people typically get and what people should be doing over here. But yes, when you're trying to learn a language, essentially what you want to do, if the goal is speaking, is trying to understand the language in the language. And it doesn't matter if it's like a first language or second language or third language. The brain doesn't really recognize like, oh, this is, what order of things you're learning, because even in your native language, you probably have many words for expressing something, or many ways of expressing whatever, some situation. I actually talk about this in my book. Just a quick example here, but in the bathrooms here in Japan, there will be automatic flushing toilets, and they will have different notes on top of them that express, hey, this is an automatic flushing toilet, and it will just, flush periodically. You don't have to do anything, because people will look around for, a button or something like that to push. But the thing about these little notes is they're not all written the same way. The expression of it is a little bit different. And it's not like each one is a different language. So some people have, they know 10 different words for money, or you could probably think about many ways of expressing any situation, like, yesterday I went to the store, or I went to the store yesterday. Like yesterday, I thought about going to the store and I needed some milk, so I went. You can see how I could really come up with an infinite number of ways to describe things. And it's not like each one of those is a different language. It's just looking at these different ideas. And so even in like what your brain or what you might kind of consciously think of as a second language or third language, if you learn that word in the language itself, so as an example, this is another example, I think I give this in my book, about a child learning the word tsunami. So this is an English word. So it now is an English word, but it comes from the Japanese word tsunami. It's the same thing. But a young child in America learning the word tsunami, they don't know that that's connected to Japanese at all. They just learn, oh, that's the word for a big wave. And so we could describe it as big wave, or we could describe it as a tsunami. But when people think about this, like, it's only later in life do you realize, oh, that's actually a Japanese word borrowed from Japanese and we use it in English. But a young child just knows the word as the word. So this is why I don't worry about what order languages are in or anything like that. It's really about letting the brain connect directly with the information, and that's actually what we're talking about in this video. So you'll see a bit more about how this works. Let's see. And Han and Yen says, what happened to your hand? Yeah, I thought somebody might ask about that. I stabbed myself with my own nail. I think I kind of scratched myself, but I only had a giant Band-Aid. So it looks like I'm, coming out of the hospital, or I'm in a zombie movie, or I got bit by a shark or something like that. But it's just, you can see the blood right there. But it's not that bad. It's just a small cut with a big Band-Aid on it, unfortunately. Let's see. Oh, no way. It's you. No way. I watched your videos as a kid and when I was trying to get fluent, and I am old now. Wait a minute. It's nice to see you again. Well, welcome to the party again. You can't have been like a young kid and then be old, maybe older, but is it acceptable to speak a global accent? Well, I don't know if there's even one accent that people would consider like a global accent. Maybe in the future that might happen, but the world is a pretty big place. And right now we've still got American English and British English, and even within that there are different local dialects and things, and language will always evolve and change like that. So I don't know. We probably won't. I don't know. I don't really think that'll happen, but we'll see. Ty says, where can I find phrasal verbs that Native Americans use every day so I can listen to them and speak more automatically like a native? Well, if you're just looking for phrasal verbs specifically, I would actually watch children's TV shows because that's where a lot of these are. Of course, I have programs for that, like the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs. If you search my YouTube channel, you will find more about that. But for learning any kind of phrasal verb, it's more thinking about the situation and then how a learner would understand that. And that's another thing we'll talk about in this video, where the goal is not learning phrasal verbs, but what do we say in a particular situation? And phrasal verbs are one way we could do that. So I could rip off this Band-Aid, like remove it quickly. So I could quickly remove, or I could rip off this Band-Aid, or I could yank it off, or pull it off, or some different ways of doing it. Those are all phrasal verbs. And the point is not to learn a specific thing. And this is what gets people trapped a lot. They get stuck in conversations because they have basically one way to express something and they can't really think, okay, if I forget this, what do I say? And I talk about all of this in the book. But again, what we're looking for here is how do we learn things so we're actually able to use them? But it's not that difficult. And again, rather than looking for phrasal verbs just as a thing, try to organize them by situation. So if you're talking about tying your shoes or baking a cake or whatever, you will learn lots of phrasal verbs naturally just by seeing people doing physical actions. And that's why I mentioned watching children's TV shows, because they're often doing something physical and you can see how the phrasal verbs work that way. That's why I teach phrasal verbs in my program the same way. Yeah, my hand is okay. It's just a small cut. It's not a big deal. I'm sure it'll be fine later. It looks worse than it is because the Band-Aid is, just pretty big. Again, yeah, about the accent idea, I don't think there's, it's just speaking clearly, but people will recognize either you learned English in America or, from Americans or something like that, or Australian speakers or whatever. Let's see. Hi, my name is David from Argentina. Let's see. I'm 25 now. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Yeah, you're not old. 25 is young. What are you talking about? All right. Do we need to understand the meaning, videos, and audios before we practice listening? What do you mean? Like, you try to think about it not like understanding a whole video, but understanding particular things. Let me just give you a bunch of examples here, and it'll make this a little bit easier for people to understand. But this is not, it's not a difficult thing to find information about English. And so often people are saying, like the question we had about where can I find phrasal verbs? Like, information is everywhere. You can find lists of phrasal verbs. ChatGPT will give you lists of phrasal verbs, but that's not really how I recommend you learn them. That's why I don't teach them that way. But let's look at this idea about information versus transformation. So just to make this concrete for people, let's say you're learning and you learn the word at. Now, without worrying about what part of speech it is or anything like that, because words can change, like a meaning can have, it can be like a preposition at one moment and then an adverb in another moment, something like that. We're not going to worry about that here. This is more just to contrast how people typically learn and why they often are unable to use what they learn. So I watched a video yesterday, I think, where it was just saying like at equals locations or something like that. And this is basically giving an explanation which is not very helpful for people because, okay, what does a location mean? Like how specific is that? Does that really help? And maybe you get a few example sentences like I am at the bank, or at at the store. And this is typically how language learning works. So either you begin with something, you might get an explanation in English, or you get a translation, something like that. We're trying to explain how the language works. We're giving you an explanation about the grammar. We're explaining it like, okay, at means this is how you use it, that kind of thing. So this is giving you information, but after this, if you still don't feel sure, it's not helping you with use. And that's the thing we're really after here. So hopefully, I think we should still be working. But when we're talking about transformations, these are the kinds of rules that, like for the information, like a typical learner would get this kind of rule here. So at means locations, we could be at the bank or at the store, at the post office or whatever. But natives don't learn the language like this. And so I'll give you an example. Typically, rather than looking at just a word and I put it in a box like this because it's almost like its own thing by itself. But in the mind of a fluent speaker or a native speaker, we're not really thinking about at by itself. We're looking at in relation to other things and then using that to give our brain a transformation of understanding. So we think, okay, now I got it. So let's look at some examples of this, and you'll see exactly how this works as I go through it. So let's say we begin, I'm not going to draw this very well. I'm not the best artist, but let's see if I can draw this well. We're going to draw, this is a bed over here. So this is a kind of like a high post bed, got a pillow over there. Oh no, I got a... All right, I had to sneeze right quick. Anyway, so we have a bed. We're going to put a person standing over here. So this person is actually next to, kind of standing behind the bed. I have a little bit of like allergy, I think, some kind of pollen allergy. So forgive me if I'm making weird faces occasionally. So we got a person standing over here, and if he's not. Again, pardon me. So we're going to put his legs down here so you can see him. This person is standing at the bed. He is at the bed right now. At the bed. And so you can see where he is in relation to this picture here. But we don't stop here. Here's the interesting thing that natives are learning, and people who can speak fluently, even if they don't know these rules, they understand them intuitively. So we're going to change the picture slightly and see how that changes the sentence. So right now this person is standing at the bed. Like they could be over here or over here or over here, somewhere around the bed but close by it. And so you understand, okay, the transformation begins by understanding at is like in relation to this. At could be here or here or here, somewhere around but close by the bed. Okay? So the next thing here, we're going to put this guy, we're going to move him and just have him kind of, I'm going to make him tiny over here so it's a little bit easier to see. So right now he is sitting or kind of lying down, I guess, on the bed. Now you probably know this already. You can see the difference here, but again, the point is to not just try to look at the word by itself. We want to be able to compare and contrast and actually help the brain understand why we would say one thing for one situation and another word for a slightly different situation. All right, so this makes sense. We've got a guy on the bed. We could also put him down here. Let's say he's actually directly under the bed. Same idea. Under the bed. Now here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. Let's say we have a guy lying down on the bed like this, but we put the covers on him so you can't see him. You can just have his head over here. He's lying down. Right now, he is in bed. So when natives understand this, they think about, like a person is not just lying down on top of the covers, they are actually under the covers, and whether they're sleeping or not, you don't know for sure, but being in bed usually means you're relaxing, you're under the covers, and you're kind of inside this pocket here. And so when we're looking at a word like, the point is not to understand the word at by itself as a thing, it's looking at it in connection with these other things. And so now at and on and in, all of them become stronger, and we're getting those aha moments, which gives us a transformation. So we're not just trying to get more information, we actually want to understand how these different things work. And so you can imagine in a native speaker's house, like if I'm talking with my kids, One of my daughters says, like, where is mom? And I say, oh, she's in bed. And they know that, okay, that means like she is actually on the bed, but under the covers, maybe still sleeping. That's not clear. It's just, it could be still sleeping, could be not. But when a person is in bed like this, that's what we mean, okay? So if I'm at my bed right now, maybe I'm standing next to my bed, I'm talking on the phone or something, but I'm not lying down. I'm not sitting on the bed. I'm not lying down on the bed. I'm not in bed also. And we also don't use in the bed. It's just I'm in bed. So again, I could be relaxing. I could be watching a movie. I could be sleeping, but this is the idea. I'm relaxing with the covers typically on myself. If it's really hot, maybe I don't have the covers on me, but that idea of being in bed is more relaxing on the bed like that, okay? But you can see the difference between sitting on the covers or even lying down on a bed versus being in bed. Does that make sense? So when native speakers are learning the language like this, they're not trying to study rules and looking at things individually, but they are learning the real rules of the language. Okay? So that's the idea here. So this is just one example. I'll go back and look at chat in a moment, but hopefully this makes sense. So just to go back through this very quickly, at is kind of, if you look at it from the top, here's the bed, we're looking down at it. You can imagine kind of a circle around this, and the person could be here or here or here or here or whatever. They're kind of around near the bed, close by it. Maybe they could touch the bed. They're that close to the bed. Okay. And if you're on the bed, this is you up here, but maybe you're not sleeping, you're not under the covers. You could be sitting on the bed or lying down on the bed, something like that. But in bed, this specific phrase is talking about you've got some kind of covers or something like that over you. Maybe you are sleeping or you're relaxing or doing something. I'm just in bed. So maybe like a friend of yours is at work and they say, oh, why are you not at work today? And you're saying, oh, I'm sick. So I'm in bed with the flu, for example. So I'm sick, I'm sick in bed right now. I'm in bed with the flu, as an example. So I'm in bed with a terrible cold, anything like that. So it's the system that gets built by seeing these different examples, and although natives are often not even learning this efficiently, this is the kind of way that they learn that actually gives them the real rules that allow them to speak. And so if you ask a native speaker, they often can't explain what I'm explaining to you now. They're not really thinking about it, but they understand the rules and they use them correctly. Okay? All right. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go back here, make sure I didn't miss any comments. Let's see. Do you think some ideas are truly understandable, or they just turn into different versions of themselves? Untranslatable. Well, unless, I don't know, I can't think of something that someone would do that would not be untranslatable. I mean, unless it was a specific cultural thing that isn't shared by other cultures or something. But I think most everyday activities that people are doing, there's a way to express what that is. And again, even native speakers might express a particular thing in a different way. So let's say, even as an English speaker, I could go to like a religious, it could be Buddhist or Christian or whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe they're performing some kind of ceremony or service or whatever, and I don't really know what they're doing or what the point of it is or anything. Maybe someone could still explain that to me. It would still be in English, but that's still just a cultural thing maybe I don't know much about. But yeah, even like kind of cross-culturally, most things there should be some way to explain what's happening or like why people are doing it or whatever, even if you can't get some perfect name for a particular thing. And that's another thing that you'll see in this case here. Fluent speakers are not looking for one particular way to express something. We're looking for how do we use the language, how do we keep the conversation moving. If I can't think of one way, then I'll just use a different one. If I can't think, what's this word? And natives forget vocabulary all the time. I'd still forget words, or I think like, wait, what is the word for that? But I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that in a conversation, I just use something else. And maybe I think about it later, maybe I even stop the conversation to talk about the word I'm having trouble remembering. Like if another person needs to help me understand that or something. But in general, this is how you're trying to learn the actual rules of the language without studying rules like this. We don't want information. We want transformation. We want actual understanding that helps us use the language. Now, let me know if you feel better about using these words for this situation, and hopefully even, for broader situations, your brain is already thinking about that. Let me know if this was helpful for you. I'll give you some more examples, but let me know if this, seeing how these different things work, you can see these two different ways of learning a language side by side. Let me know if this one was more helpful for you. And if you didn't already know about being in bed or in bed with the flu, or I'm in bed with my wife, I could actually be sharing a bed with somebody and maybe not sleeping, But again, that's the basic idea. And so this is the same way a child would learn their language, but I'm just doing it in a more efficient way because as an adult, you can actually learn much faster than a child because you can think faster. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions about this. All right, but let me know if it's helpful. Let's see. And do you think so? Okay, I got that one already. How to reactivate the vocabulary that I've learned in the past to use in a conversation, because when I try to speak, I get stuck in the middle of speak. And again, that's the same kind of idea where it's not so much about remembering specific vocabulary, but do I know how to express something even with a variety of speaking, like a variety of expressions or vocabulary? So if you're trying to remember specific ways of saying things with certain vocabulary, you certainly could do that just by going back and seeing other people, like other native speakers, talking about things using that kind of vocabulary. So unless you gave me a specific example, but whatever the thing is, think about it more like, what are you talking about? And that's the kind of situation where certain vocabulary would appear. So young children playing at a park are going to use different vocabulary than adults in a business meeting. There might be some words that are the same, but in general, you're learning from the situation, just like we're learning here. So we're looking at something, contrasting different ways that we might understand that thing, and we see how the vocabulary works. So we can make further examples, like now we can understand why I'm at the bookstore. So here's the bookstore over here. We can draw a circle around there. I could be inside the bookstore. I could be standing outside of the bookstore also. We're not usually describing ourselves as being at a bed because at that point you're just on a bed. But for a building location like this, that's why we would use, I'm at the bookstore. So I could be, even if the bookstore is, up on the 5th floor of a building, I'm up here, I'm out here, I'm around this area, somewhere within this near or close zone. I'm at the bookstore. Same way I'm at my bed over here. All right. Like right now, I'm at this particular building, or you can describe more specifically, I'm in this room. Like I wouldn't be at a room, but I'm, when I'm specifically enclosed in a space, that's where we would describe that. But the point is that we're not just looking at a word and trying to understand it with a few examples like this that don't actually teach you anything. The word at doesn't really mean anything here unless you contrast it with something else. So I could, for example, be on the bookstore if I'm standing up here. And that's where you think, okay, I can see why it would be different. Your brain is getting a transformation rather than more information. Does that make sense? All right, we'll keep rolling here. Thank you for your effort. Could you give me the steps to follow to reach fluency in English in a short time? Just get the book. That's exactly what it shows you how to do. So if you've been learning English for a long time, you already know a lot of English, but you mostly feel like you know a lot of information, but you can't use the information you know. That's what the book shows you how to do. And you can click on the link in the description to do that. The whole reason I wrote the book is because people often ask me these same questions, and it's easier to just say, read the book. It's right in there. It will tell you exactly what this is. So you just have to decide, can you spend a few hours reading a book, And that would really change everything. The whole point is to give you a transformation about learning and show you how it works. And then you can feel free to keep learning on your own, or I show you how to do that with programs like I have, like Fluent for Life. But the basic idea is, once you understand how to give yourself these transformations, and I'm showing you an example of that here, I'll give you another one in a minute, but that's the idea. We don't need more information. Every day, more people are releasing more videos, more content. AI can give us more examples of things, but if you don't feel sure about using it, it's just information. It's not actually helping you, okay? We're looking for transformation here, and that's what's going to help you speak. All right, let's see. Hey, it's been such a long time. I remember watching your videos 10 years ago, and your channel is absolutely still rocking it. Yep, we're still going because people still have the same issues. Fancy that. Isn't that interesting? Allah bless you. God bless you. Well, thank you all. Let's see. Difference here between in and at bed. So hopefully you understand. Like if I'm at bed, like I'm at the bed over here, I'm standing around my bed close by it somewhere. But if I'm in bed, I'm actually lying down with the covers on me. So I'm in bed right now. So right now I'm out of bed. I'm not in bed anymore. Like I'm out of bed, like, okay, I'm up, I get up. So I'm lying down, I get up, and I get out of bed. People talk about getting out of bed in the morning. So if you're in bed, the opposite would be to get out. There's a phrasal verb for you. But again, you're learning it from context in a situation that makes sense for your brain. So you think, okay, if you're in bed, then you get out of bed in the morning. Okay. All right, right now I am in my bed watching a video. Very good. Look at that. So you can be in bed and not asleep. It just means you're relaxing. It's the end of the day, or even maybe you're just sleepy or taking a nap or relaxing at any time. But yeah, that's the basic idea. Let's see. If non-American speaks with perfect pronunciation like a native speaker but doesn't use natural American expressions, would you realize they aren't a native speaker? Yes, but I think it would be pretty unusual for me to find someone who spoke perfectly, like had a perfect accent, but made a lot of errors in terms of sounding unnatural. I mean, it's possible, but I would just think, like that person really worked on their pronunciation. But typically pronunciation is less valuable than actually being able to speak naturally, because communication is the more important thing, and there are lots of different but equally fine accents to have. So we really ultimately want to be connecting with other people and making sure we are understood and we understand the other person. More accurately seems to be saying at bedroom. Well, like typically if you're inside a room, that's thinking about it again, trying to help your brain understand what people are thinking about when they're saying like I'm in a particular room. There's no real ambiguity. So ambiguity is like uncertainty about something. So if I'm inside this box over here, I cannot be inside the box and outside the box at the same time. But with a word like at, I could be. Like I could be, if I'm at home right now, it doesn't mean I'm even physically inside my house. I could be outside walking around. I could be in my backyard. I could be sitting outside, in my car or something like that. But I'm generally around this area. So I could be inside my house, but I could also be outside. So if a friend of mine calls me and he says, hey, where are you? I say, I'm at home right now. I'm not being specific about where exactly that is. I'm not saying, I'm in my bedroom. So again, a room, like a box, has a specific boundary. That's why we can say I'm in that thing or I am not. So I wouldn't be like at a particular room. It would sound odd because the room has a boundary. But the house is a little bit fuzzier like that. So that's why, again, I could be at a post office or a bank or a building or something, but not be inside that thing. If I want to be more specific, I could say, I'm at the bank in the parking lot. You know, like I could give more specific language for where exactly I am. But again, if I'm in a room, I wouldn't say I'm at my bedroom because there's an actual wall here. I can't be like kind of inside and outside at the same time. So if I'm in my bedroom, I'm in a particular place. But if I'm at home, that's more general. Okay. All right, hopefully people are getting it here. Let me know if this makes sense for you. All right, could you put 1 month of your pay course here on your channel? We already have. You can find examples of programs. Yeah, just look at our playlist. You'll see some example videos of things. But as far as like 1 month of trying to go through it, like think about it more like this. If this is not helpful for you, then you're not going to like my program, because my program is about helping you actually transform the way you understand. And you would not need a month of learning with it to understand. That's the beautiful thing about an aha moment. If I can help you understand the difference between on a bed versus in a bed, that's where the actual moment happens. So we don't need a month to figure this out. It's not like, oh, let me watch Drew's program for a month and see if I get it. It's like, this is the transformation right here. All I'm doing in the program is just making like basically thousands of these little moments. And so I call them fluency triggers because this is how I can actually do this. Like right now, this is an example of a fluency trigger because I'm triggering that understanding in you. So if this makes sense to you and you think, oh, like I actually feel better about using the language because I get this, you would like the program because it goes through this in much more detail and in way more ways. Like you would hear it from different speakers and the kind of fluency triggers and aha moments. The whole idea is the transformation of how you think as a learner. So it's not just more information, but you can see like many years of content here on the YouTube channel. And if you like what I do, then you would like the programs because it's the actual specific laid out program where we do things in the right order to make sure you understand them easily and actually prepare you to speak. So if you have specific questions about the program, you can let me know, but you should not need a month of training with it to know if it works or not. If you understand this, you can imagine, okay, I can see how that would help me with many other things because this same principle applies to everything. So that's why in my book, I don't need to give like, here's how this works for, all these different things, because it's basically one idea. And that's what I explain in the book about how this works with pronunciation and vocabulary and grammar and actually learning what people say in particular situations. So if you like that, then you would like the program. But if you're nervous about buying it just because it's not like free content or whatever, this is the only real thing you have to think about. And if you have particular questions about that, let me know. I'm right here. But again, most of what you will get when people say, why should I join a program when there's lots of free information available, I say, if it's helping you, great, continue. If YouTube is helping you speak better, fantastic. And it can, obviously, if you get enough information, you might not even understand why you got fluent. But if you're actually giving yourself transformations, that's what we're trying to do. So it's not about just getting more information. And often what happens is people get all this information and maybe there are a few transformation moments in that, maybe. But often there are not. And so they're wasting all this time to just get like a few moments where something actually feels clear. Okay? So if you are just looking for more information about the language, you can get that anywhere. You can just Google this or, ask ChatGPT or whatever. But if you actually want a transformation that actually helps you understand and use the language, that's what I do. But you should not need very many examples to see how that works. I'll give you another one in a moment. All right. Let's see. Those Japanese Yoji Kugo are truly untranslatable, like Ichi. Yeah, I mean, again, like depending on the actual situation you're trying to translate, like and how strict you are about a translation, maybe. I'm not going to argue about whether it's like an absolute thing or not. Transformation-based approach. I hear, see, sense meaning, react naturally, speak fast, confident, fluent. Yeah. And so again, the idea is if you have clarity about what something means, then you can use it. And the moment that happens, so before, like this is for anything you would learn in a language. You start learning it and you don't understand it or you don't feel sure about using it. But when you hit that moment where you actually feel sure about using it, that is the transformation that allows you to speak. Now, you may still forget a word later or something. Again, natives forget words. This is not about perfect memory. But the idea is, how do we get to this moment as quickly as possible? And often, more information is not doing that. That's why people can study for years and still not feel like good speakers, because they're just thinking, all right, well, I keep getting more information, but I don't actually feel like I'm a more confident speaker, because they still have doubts. They don't really understand. They're not actually getting transformations that help them speak. Okay. All right. Let's see. How to make a habit of daily practicing English spoken in a busy day. I wouldn't worry about speaking at all. And I don't worry about speaking, even in my book. If you read that, you will understand exactly what to do. But most of what learners are trying to do is get information and then practice speaking it. But they don't really feel sure about what they want to say, and that's why they stay stuck in this loop for years, where people are continuing to learn more things but not actually feeling sure about using them. So what I do for what I teach is, the goal is not to try to learn something and know it a little bit and then try to practice speaking it. Speaking is the result of actually feeling sure about using the language. And so you should be spending more of your time just understanding things well, actually getting transformations that make you feel, now I get it. Now I understand how I could use something. That's what you're really after. So don't worry about speaking practice. And if you're learning in the way I describe, you're not really thinking about speaking practice anyway. It's just speaking, and you feel good about doing that, because why wouldn't you? It's a natural thing we all do when we feel sure about speaking. So the goal is not to push yourself like, hey, every day I need 5 minutes of speaking practice. I don't do that in Japanese. You know, I'm spending most of my time trying to give myself transformations. So trying to help my brain understand how something really works, and then I can use it. That's the idea. So don't put pressure on yourself to speak. Let's see. Hi, Drew. I learned so much from you. Can you please also explain when we use has been and is been in sentences? I've already covered that. Look for, what is that? Watch the present perfect video. I think is it in that video? Yeah, I've already covered this, but that's again another thing that the book shows you how to do. If you're curious about like how to learn these things, and instead of thinking like, Drew, can you explain has been? Drew, can you explain the word at? Can you explain whatever? Like most of that is just giving you more information. So what I'm trying to help you see is, if you stop trying to get information and start trying to get transformations by seeing how things work together like that, you will actually understand better. But most things that people ask me like that question are like things I've already covered on the channel or things I cover in the book. So if you've been learning a long time and you're just frustrated, like, okay, like I keep spending more time learning, I don't actually feel like I'm getting fluent, just read the book. It will help you. That's why I wrote it for you. That's why I wrote it. Let's see. Do all native speakers use almost the same expressions in daily speech? I don't know. Do you use the same expression all the time when you speak your native language? Maybe if you talk with the same friends or you go to the same work or something like that, people get into habits and routines about the things they do. But if every day you're speaking with different people, then probably not. But you know, most people generally use certain phrases, and that's the kind of patterns that we learn even as natives when we're learning different languages and trying to understand how we should say things. So yeah, there are certain patterns, but it's not like all natives are using the same expressions. And remember, when you're learning this way, like a person learning English often wants to have basic rules like this, but then they can't use them. It doesn't actually help you speak better to know this information here. It's just information. Until it gives you a transformation, it's just information. And facts information, trivia, all of that stuff is just like, it's kind of nice to know if you have time to think about it, but most people are not able to use what they learn. And that's the reason. They're not actually getting transformations that help them understand the language. So pick anything, it doesn't matter what the thing is. Like if you're trying to learn a word at, this is how you do it. It's like at what? And then how might at be different from something else, just like I'm demonstrating here. So is at a bed different from being in bed or on bed or under the bed or next to the bed or whatever, anything like that. Okay, but it's seeing how these things work and then learning, okay, that's why it works. Like, for example, we use in bed. We don't really talk about being inside bed. That's kind of, that would sound a little bit awkward. You could kind of imagine maybe someone being kind of physically inside of a space, but just in bed is a casual way of expressing that I'm under the covers kind of thing. But I'm not really like, I don't know. You could say that, but nobody uses I'm inside bed right now. And also it's just faster and easier to say that. But again, your brain is always looking for these examples of how do I understand the rule better. So as I'm teaching more things and I reveal more pieces of this, your brain is like, ooh, like, thank you. I'm getting a transformation here by actually understanding the rules of how the words work instead of just getting more trivia and information. All right. Let's see. I think maybe I skipped that one. Hello. Currently, my English is not bad, but in specific things like technology or IT, I get stuck and it gets hard to express myself. Can you give advice how to learn in a short time, 1 to 2 months? Well, that's what we do in Fluent for Life. So what I would do, the same thing we do in the program, is you pick a specific thing you're interested in talking about and focus on that. That's what you do. And then you get the actual transformation that helps you understand the vocabulary the same way a native does. So whether you're doing that with us or by yourself, that's what you would do. If you are specifically interested in IT, like we have a computers and IT lesson set, for example, that focuses on that kind of information. But you can get that elsewhere if you're just looking for it's not the most efficient way to learn, but the information is certainly available. So again, trying to find information like, here's specific vocabulary for information technology or whatever. You can find that anywhere. Just go to Google and type in what that is. But remember, the point is not just to give your brain more information. You actually want to have that transformation of understanding where you think, now I'm kind of learning something. I don't really feel sure about using it, but now I do. Now something clicked in my head, and going forward, I can actually use this information. But that's what I would do. So I would focus on a particular thing the same way we do in our programs. So the people who go through the program, they get fluent quickly because we're just focusing on one thing at a time. They get fluent in that. We're trying to give them as many transformations as possible in a short period, and then you move on to the next thing. And as you do this, your brain continues to refine and get stronger, and that's how you become a confident speaker. It's like exactly how it works. All right, what are the differences between spoken grammar between native speakers who went to school and those who didn't? I don't know. I mean, most people aren't really like by the time you learn grammar in school. So if you think about elementary school kids, most of what they're doing is learning the language just from talking to other people, like their parents or their friends or teachers or something, or from television. So it doesn't really matter whether you're going to school or not. People can be homeschooled and still learn basically the same language. And it's more about the way that they learn. And this is the difference here. So in school, you actually get, and even for native speakers, they're learning information. They're getting things like, okay, this is the present perfect or the past participle or, whatever, things like that. They're getting information. And most learners forget that information. If you ask an adult English speaker, even a native, they're 20 years old, 50 years old, it doesn't matter. What is a phrasal verb? Nobody knows. They wouldn't be able to tell you what that is because that's just trivia. It's just information. It's a fact about the language, but nobody cares, so people don't remember that. So some things in school, you're actually getting more information the same way you are getting information, and like not you personally, but in general, people learning languages, like even me, this is the same way I was basically getting information when I was learning different languages in school, and none of it made any sense to me. I wasn't actually getting a transformation in understanding, so I couldn't speak anything. You know, it's not really a mystery. But again, I don't know, like you don't really have to worry about that unless you're a linguist and you want to be able to talk about different parts of speech or compare languages or something like that. But in general, everyday people, like they're not just trying to collect information for no reason. Maybe some people like trivia or whatever, but in general, for communication purposes, this is what we're looking for. We want to know, if I know an expression or a word, can I use it or not? That's the only real question. And most of the trivia that people learn in elementary school or even going up in different levels about the language, because again, native speakers do learn those kind of grammar things in school. They learn how to write sentences and when you should put a period or a question mark and all of that stuff. But the spoken language, everybody just learns that naturally. And again, it's these two different ways of learning. If the way people learn the spoken language, if you learn that in school, you would actually remember that stuff better. But most people don't care. So that's basically what's happening with that. What are the differences in? Okay, I answered that one. And when I'm imitating and shadowing, should I look at subtitles? Again, like everything I talk about is about understanding. It doesn't matter. Like, don't worry about shadowing or anything else unless you actually first understand and feel sure about using what you learn. Then shadowing becomes useful because, okay, now we want to refine pronunciation or something like that. But like if you're just getting more information, it's not like saying there's anything wrong with shadowing by itself. I'm talking about the sequence of this. So this is the same way I describe it in my book, where the first thing you want to do is get preparation. So preparation is where you actually, like this, you're understanding the language before you speak. So there's no pressure to try to force yourself to have conversations with people. You just want to see how the language works. Nice and easy, very comfortably. I'm not just giving you information, I'm helping you transform your understanding of the language. Because if you understand these things and you recognize like, oh, like I can see why it would be different. You spend just a little bit of time doing that, and now you have a much stronger understanding of these words. So that's preparation before you try to speak. The next part of that is doing something like shadowing or repetition or anything where you're looking to refine. This is like, maybe I want to get my pronunciation better or something like that. But that's when I would do something. And then after that is when I would finally speak. And again, this is not like, you don't have to spend years learning by yourself and then, finally speak. It's more think about it for individual words and phrases, because that's actually how people experience this kind of feeling of being stuck. So people aren't typically stuck in general. They have specific, maybe things that they're worried about, like I don't know how to use a word or I can't remember something, but all those are really specific doubts that stop people from speaking. And so if you're not sure if this person is at bed or in bed or whatever, you're not going to say it well. You will feel unsure about using it, even just this simple sentence. Okay? So the point is not to like spend a whole bunch of time learning and then try to speak. It's just for the thing you're learning, you focus on something, feel sure about it, and then do whatever additional practice you want. Like, okay, I know how this works, but I want to sound a bit more natural. That's when shadowing would become more useful. So all of these things are integrated in something like Fluent for Life. But again, if you're doing it yourself, I would still try to sequence it that way. The first thing is, without putting pressure on yourself, just try to understand what you're saying. And give yourself the time you need that actually, like now I actually understand something. Because again, if you're spending time learning but you don't feel sure about what you're saying, then what is the point, All right. Hopefully that makes sense though. I look at that, we might be at the end of comments. Let me see here. Oh no, we're not. we got more comments coming in. Let's see. Okay, Andres says transformation is another way of saying learn in context. It's not just learning in context, because again, what we're trying to do here is compare and answer specific questions that the brain has. Because again, like I could give an example that's basically informational, like here's a picture of like here's a guy at a store, and I say like, oh look, I'm at a store, and that's a contextual lesson. I'm not just giving you words on a page. I'm saying, look, like here is a guy at a store. What's interesting though is it's basically information until you understand like, well, why do we use at and not something else? And this is a thing a lot of people miss about learning and teaching the language, where you're trying to help your brain understand why do we use this rather than some other word. And that's like an additional thing where this is not just about contextual learning, it's about actually answering questions that would stop you from speaking, because that's the real thing we're after. We're looking for that moment where something feels like, okay, I get it now. I own that thing. I understand why we would use this and not something else. So yes, like it is contextual learning, but I'm not stopping at context. I'm looking at how do we compare these things and really understand how they work, so you can feel confident like, that person is on the bed. I can describe exactly what's happening, or that person is in bed, or that person is next to the bed, or whatever. So spending just a little bit of time with something, actually getting these simple contrasts here, and the way we might answer questions for your brain depends on the situation. But yes, I'm not just saying like learn in context or whatever. And this is also part of the reason I wrote my book, because when I give people examples of things, they think, I get it. Drew wants me to learn visually, or Drew wants me to learn like from listening, or Drew wants me to do this or whatever. And it's like yes and no. The point is we need to answer questions that the brain has and remove uncertainty. And so when I'm teaching people, like they might ask me a question about, what does at mean? And I will think, okay, what is this person really unsure about? And so that leads us to understanding things in a more natural way, where it's not just the word by itself, but how does that word connect with other words, and how might the situation change if we use something instead? Okay, so yes, it's correct to say it's contextual, but that's not the whole story. Okay, so that's why I wrote a whole book to explain all this, because I really want people to understand it. It's not just listening or just watching stuff or whatever. It's getting your questions answered, and different questions might have different answers that are more efficient than others. But it's quite, in general, basically what we're doing here is this kind of thing, where we're just answering the brain's questions, and also answering questions that like we're trying to anticipate the questions you might have. For example, the reason in Fluent for Life that we give multiple examples of how other people would say things, so you're not just listening to me, you're listening to a wide range of speakers, is because in the real world, everyone is not going to speak as clearly as I am speaking right now. So I'm speaking clearly, more slowly. I'm not using a bunch of slang or phrasal verbs that people might not know. That's why it's easier to understand my speech than, watching a lot of movies. But if you learn with me, plus the other people and other examples where we build you up, that's a phrasal verb for you, to build you up, to make you stronger, to make your understanding better, so that you can actually understand like a wide variety of people. That's why we're doing that. So I'm anticipating. I know that you're not just learning with me. This is not just about learning the language and getting trivia or examples about what things mean. It's actually being prepared for real life. And so you can spend actually a lot of time just preparing for things even before you speak. And then when you get into conversations, you will feel a lot more confident. But that's the whole point of the program, or even the book. So if you do not have the book yet and you want to see how all of this works, get the book. You can click on the link in the description below the video. Also, if anybody has not gotten the book, I'd love to know why. It's super cheap. And it tells you everything. And it's like me teaching for 20 years, and I put all of that in one book. so that people can actually see this and you can take time learning and you'll see exactly how to get fluent. So I don't know if there's anything else I need to put in the book or tell you about the book, but let me know. But yeah, it's basically another, it's a very simple way of understanding language learning and kind of removing the typical things that get people stuck often, because ultimately we're not trying to get more information. We want to remove the doubts that stop us from speaking. Okay, so if at home means someone is in or outside, then the same rules refer to at a bedroom. No, I just explained why that is. But I think by saying at bedroom, someone must be in or close to the bedroom, I don't see any sense. All right, like if you want to think about it in a very specific grammatical way, we can imagine a house. We'll put some different rooms in the house. Like you could say, for example, like I'm standing, here's the door just outside. This is the bedroom right here. So maybe I'm standing in this room over here. I'm in a hallway next to my bedroom. So maybe I'm standing right here. I could be in that same way. I'm at my bedroom door. In that same way, if we zoom out, here's a picture of a door. Again, you can think about it's working exactly the same way as a building like this. Like here's a building, and I can't really be like in a door. I can be in a doorway. So in that empty space, if I open up the door, I can be standing inside that. So we can talk about that. But if I'm standing here, you could describe this as being in front of the door, or in the same way, it's just like being at a building. I am at the front door. So I'm at the door of my bedroom. But we wouldn't be, for being physically inside a room, we wouldn't be at a room, because I'm already inside it. I can't really be inside or out. But if I'm at home, it's this same idea. Like I could be here, here. I could be on the roof. I could be outside. Generally, I'm at home in all of those locations, because it's just talking about here's a thing, here's around that thing. It's not exact, it's not perfect, but somewhere around that. That's why we would say that. So I wouldn't say I'm at a room, because that would mean I'm kind of like here's a room. We'll put a little box here, and I'm kind of in the same way, like standing around it somewhere. But it would be more like, again, this same idea. If I'm at a bedroom door, then it's the same idea like I'm at the bookstore. I could be standing outside of the bookstore, very close to it. I'm still at the bookstore, just like I'm at a door like that. So people will often hear this like, oh, someone's at the door, someone's at the front door of the house. So someone down here outside, like the mailman is at the door. So again, it's that same location. It's like now the door is the focus. The mailman is not at home. I mean, you could kind of describe it like the mailman is at our home right now. So he's not at home like his own house, but he's at our home. A mailman is at the front door. So someone is delivering mail. They are at the front door. But if you are actually inside a room, you wouldn't say I'm like at a room in that way, because again, there's no lack of clarity. Either you are in the room or you are not. I'm in the room right now, or I'm inside a room. But I can be at in like kind of one of these places where you don't really know where I am. But if someone specifically asks like, oh, where exactly are you? I would say, oh, I'm in my bedroom. I wouldn't say I'm at my bedroom. Does that make sense? All right. But see, like this is how the brain learns. Like the brain is trying to move through these different examples and think like, okay, what about this thing? What about that thing? And this is why information is just not enough for most people. They understand a rule, but it's like a location. Like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to people. It's just trivia or facts or information. But the transformation comes like each time you learn a little bit more, I explain a little bit further, and you think, I got it now. Okay. I'm trying to go for the transformation moment. I don't want to just give you more information like, hey, it's location. It's not just location. It's like, what does location mean? People want to know exactly how this works. And so again, it's not even contextual learning by itself. It's specifically framed examples where we're trying to eliminate doubt. All right. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully, let me know if this is helpful. Do a, I don't know, click the like button or whatever. It's kind of slow watching this in my computer. Does anybody else have like a computer it just like restarts on its own now? It used to not do that. Microsoft is, I have like a regular Windows 11 laptop, and it'll just say, hey, we're going to restart later, but it doesn't say when, and it just restarts on you. Like Bill Gates, like we don't need that, Get my permission. All right, let's go through a couple more of these. We got a little bit of time left. Let's see. Marco again says, do you think it's possible to automatically think in English, even if you live in, for example, Germany, if you're constantly exposed to English content through headphones at work and at home? Remember, the point is not just exposure. We don't want information. So the key is not like, does information get you fluent? It's like, do transformations get you fluent? Absolutely. And that's why I have learners in my programs or people who get my book all over the world. We've got people in Germany or France or Italy or in Asian countries, South America, everywhere. It doesn't matter, because the point, like, and it's this also the same reason you can live in Germany and get lots of information and still not have a good speaking ability. So if you spend a lot of time watching content on YouTube, you can still not improve. You might learn a little bit, but still, again, if use is the important thing for you, you don't have to spend your time talking, but you do have to spend your time transforming your brain and basically transforming yourself into a fluent speaker. And I'll be talking more about this in chapter 8 of the book, but it's almost complete. That's the last chapter left to finish. But everything so far will explain it doesn't matter where you live. If you want to be a fluent speaker, you can, because the point is not just to get information. If you know how to transform your understanding, that's where you actually start speaking. Because the point is, if you feel uncertain, that's when you're going to stop speaking. Remove the doubt, and speaking flows naturally, without you even thinking about it. So no, you don't have to spend time trying to memorize things or whatever. It's just, if you can get lots of transformations, that's why people watch my videos and become more fluent, because I give them those transformations. That's the whole point of what I do. Hi, sir. Thanks for teaching such valuable information and using the information. Yes. And again, like, I'm not even saying information itself is bad. It's just most people get lots of information but still can't use it. That's the idea. All right. I'm currently learning another foreign language, says Pankoi, which is Chinese. My problem is that while I want to sound casual, I can't decide whether kids shows or reality shows will help me more as a beginner. I don't really know the difference in that for Chinese, but I don't know. I'm sure kids are not really worried about whether they sound proper for a business meeting or something. So it more depends on your particular goals. But you could get a mix of both of those things, like helping you understand the language with easier programming like kids, but then maybe seeing some other examples of whatever the particular way you want to speak, like as an adult, you could do that. Remember, the same thing about transformation. It's really about getting your questions answered. So begin with the end of, where do you want to use the language, or why are you learning it? Do you need to speak Chinese professionally, or are you on a sports team, or are you talking to kids, or, whatever that thing is. But then you work back from that, and that will guide you as far as what kind of content you should be learning with. Let's see. Hi, Drew. Is your Fluent for Life program updated with new lessons and videos? How often do you add new content, and how long will updates continue? Thank you for your help. No, we haven't been updating it in a while because we don't need to. Like people think the language is like it's like changing rapidly or something. It is not. Even the language that people are speaking 100 years ago is still the same language we're speaking today. And even me in my own life, all the words that I'm saying right now, I learned those words when I was, 10 years old or younger, and I've been using the same vocabulary for many years. So people think like, oh, I need new content all the time, but there's so much available in Fluent for Life, and it all helps you learn the language that you don't need new content all the time. You couldn't go through it all even if you wanted to. There's just too much information already. So there's more than enough to get you fluent already in Fluent for Life. And if there are any new words that you learn or something like that that you're interested in, we can help you with that. But again, for most people, like the thing that's stopping them from speaking, so the actual roadblock or the difficulty is not needing to know new vocabulary. So me, like I very rarely learn new vocabulary unless it's, young person slang or something like that, and that's generally not helpful for me anyway. So, I don't really care about things like that. If it's something like, I don't know, I can't even think about that. But yeah, this is a kind of common problem that people have, but it's more your brain telling you like, we got to get the newest information. It's like, why? And you don't really need to be, most people don't care about that. Most people are saying the same things that they've been saying for many, many years. And if the goal is fluency, you will achieve that just fine with the program. Again, like people who have not even gone through all of the content because there's just too much of it, really. We give you a huge library so you can choose what you're interested in learning with. That's the whole point of having all that. But even people who have only gone through like a small fraction of it, they may wonder, where is new content? But if you haven't gone through the previous stuff already, it's new for you, and you probably aren't able to speak fluently about it anyway. So it's better just to actually focus on what we have. But there's way more than people need. That's why I say it's like a Netflix for English learners. And let's see. Bruno says, "Congratulations, Drew. In my IT class, we learned about data information and transformation or knowledge, and they're a way to process data in computation. But first, it's to analysis from humans interact." That's interesting. Azmat says, "Hi, sir. I'm an English teacher at a Pakistani school. What do you think the best way to make my students fluent in English is? Get my book. Just get it." It'll explain everything, and it'll also explain what to do with kids. So even if you're as a teacher teaching the language, it will show you what to do there as well. And RX says, "By the way, thanks. You deepen my knowledge of using at, on, in, and so on, and I'm able to use it now like a smarter guy." There you go. If I remove the doubt, then the language should be usable automatically. Again, this is not like the moment here actually happens very quickly. It's just a lot of people get a whole bunch of information and they spend most of their time doing this stuff over here where they don't really understand things and still don't feel sure about using it. So this is the most important part. The question is, how do we get to that point as efficiently as possible for the things we want to say? And that's what I focus on. So again, the point is the transformation. And yes, information is necessary to get you there, but you can see how I'm using information in a specific way. There's a good sequence or particular rules I am using as a teacher to make sure people understand things. And one of those is just being able to compare different things and understand how they work. But if you can do that, you will feel a lot more confident about speaking. Let's see, I can't read the Cyrillic. Is that Anton or no? Let's see, what do you think about learning a word in a week? Like take some basic word and look it up for all possible meanings. For example, go take would I get fluent? Well, number one, you wouldn't need a week to do that. Like again, you have to understand that the brain is constantly looking for new information about vocabulary. So you can see even in this conversation, we're focusing on one word, but we get other examples of other words because those help us understand this one. So they're actually working together to make the understanding easier. And as we go through even more examples over here, now you feel a lot better about using even this particular word. So it's much better than just getting an example with locations or something like that. But you don't need a long time to do it. Like, we're not spending a week to understand this. But I would also remind people that we're really trying to understand how words work for particular situations. So you notice I'm only talking about at for specific locations or places like that. We're not talking about like, I don't know, like I've been at this a long time. You know, like that, it's a different understanding of the word. And so the point is not to try to learn the word that way. Like, it's almost like vertical learning where I'm going to get the word at, try to memorize every use of it or whatever. It's just a kind of unnatural way of learning that probably wouldn't help you much. It could, you can try it, but number one, it's much faster to build a network of information in your mind this way, and that's why I teach this way. And for me, you know, teaching for many years, I've never tried to teach that way because it's very inefficient for people, you know. I mean, I know how it works, but if I were to, like, you put me in one room with some teachers or some students and another teacher in a different room that's trying to teach that way, that's what most people are typically doing. And I would my students would be better speakers for sure. I would bet money on that. But yeah, so you can try it, you know, who knows, but I would think that would probably not work very well. For how long normally on that speaking stuck stage, even different from people to people? I can hear you, but I stuck on speaking for a long time. A year, is this normal? Like, and this is the kind of sad thing for a lot of people learning. And this is another thing I talk in the book. It feels normal to feel stuck, but that's only because most people are not actually teaching you the language very well. And if you give people information, but you don't eliminate doubt, then they can't speak. So it's not normal. Like, you shouldn't be learning like that, but that's what everybody does. So yes, it's normal, but it shouldn't be like that. And that's why I teach the way I do, because I actually want to show people what normal should be. So we're trying to help people really understand things well, and it doesn't take a long time. You know, I'm spending more time explaining this, but when you understand something well, that moment, that click moment, that's the thing we're looking for, that happens very, very quickly. And it can happen faster or slower depending on how you teach something. So often a lot of people are just getting more information and they never reach that point. And it feels normal because that's what everybody does. But it shouldn't be like that. And that's why it's hard for me, or I guess, you know, not really. Like, I can give many examples of something, but it's typically difficult for me to say, oh, I actually have a faster way of getting people fluent, because they just don't believe it's possible to do that. Because it seems like this is the normal way to learn, because that's what everybody does. So it's like I don't know, trying to show people that it's not actually difficult to do that, and also trying to explain why this is really a bad way for people to learn. And it's bad basically because it leaves you with doubts and questions that stop you from speaking. That's why you can't use the language. So people get stuck here because they can often understand a lot, but when you're listening, you don't need to feel sure about everything you're listening to. It doesn't matter if you know every word, but when you speak, if you have any doubt, that's what's going to stop you from expressing yourself. That's the difference between understanding something like hearing it. And if I listen to something like, I could, for example, maybe hear something technical in Japanese and not understand every word, but I would probably still get the idea of what a person was describing. But if they told me to try to describe that, I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't know every word. I don't feel sure about using it. And that's the thing. So people get stuck here where they understand more over time, but they don't actually become better speakers because they still have doubts about what they want to say. And it's not your fault. That's also not a normal thing to do. Like, people should get those questions answered. But like, most people are just not actually learning that way. I actually remember I told this story in a video a few weeks ago about like a person. This is a guy who has like an English language teaching company, and he doesn't actually think it's easy to learn languages, and so he thinks, it's like, okay, language learning is actually a difficult process. That's why people quit. It's like the language learning itself is difficult, and I say no, that's actually not true. It's just depending on how you teach it. If you just give people information, of course, they're not going to like it very much, and they're not understanding anything. And this is exactly what I explain in the book. But if you can understand things simply, you will start feeling confident very quickly about speaking. Okay, but that's it. It's just if you've got doubts, it will stop you. But there's nothing actually normal about being stuck for a long time. Not really, but that's what most people do, unfortunately. Julian says, hello, and how can I speak automatically without thinking in my head before I speak? That's, again, remember the point I'm making here. It's like each time you learn something new and you can say it, that's where you're able to do that without thinking. And so the more you do that with more things, that will broaden what you're able to speak about. So you don't just go from not speaking to speaking, you're doing that with individual words and phrases. I talk about that throughout the book, but also in chapter 8, where we're talking about this idea specifically. But yeah, so if you want to speak automatically without thinking, focus that on particular things. How do I talk about this? How do I say that, or whatever? If it's individual words or describing situations or whatever, that's how you do it. Just follow what the book says. The book shows you exactly how that works. It's very easy, just like I'm laying out here in this video. All right, couple of, let's see. I'm this elephant in the room. The elephant in the room over there. All right, hi. And how have you been? I've been all right. How's it going, Drew? Does your book have an audiobook yet? No, it does not, because the book is not complete. But when it is finished, I will add an audiobook version to that. Learn synonyms, says Sergey. For each synonym, remember the context. Synonyms in English are not interchangeable and are used in different situations. Please speak more about transportation. You mean like moving from one place to another? Transportation? I just meant that if I take one word and spend a week to remove all the doubts about that word, if I write it down, maybe that would get me fluency. Well, it would certainly help you understand a particular word better, but I would think you would not need that long to do it. But go ahead and try it for a week and see if that helps you. But mostly I would think you would find you would spend a lot of time getting information that doesn't really give you aha moments. And so the point is, how quickly can we get those aha moments? But it's a lot easier for your brain to understand things, kind of contextually, but connected with other examples. So if you just try to go through all the uses of a preposition like at, it's a bit abstract for your mind to handle, but it's a lot easier when you can make different connections. But give it a try, see if that works. How can I check if a word, phrase, chunk, phrasal verb, or slang is still used by young people? I don't know, watch like videos of young people on YouTube and see how they talk. That'd be pretty easy to do. But again, if all the stuff we teach in Fluent for Life, this is regular language that people use every day, and they will continue to use it for years and years. It's just how the actual language works. And there might be some new slang that's introduced, but most people are not struggling to speak because they don't know some new slang. They actually have trouble with a lot of the basics. Like if you look at the comments in these videos, there are a lot of basic grammar errors where people are they don't quite understand even stuff like this. And they think, well, I understand that when other people tell me, but they don't feel sure about using it themselves because they still have doubts about it. So the thing I actually recommend, I would actually tell more adult learners to use Frederick. So this is my app for learning pronunciation, but it will teach you a lot of this stuff naturally and actually show you how this works, and you will actually feel like these same kinds of examples that I'm giving you here. That's like how Frederick works for teaching you vocabulary and pronunciation. But yeah, basically everybody, maybe not everybody, but there are a lot of grammar errors here. And Frederick would fix a lot of that for people. But most people they're typically, and this is just people in general, not even just language learners, they're looking for something new rather than trying to actually understand the thing they already know without a doubt. Most people don't want to do that because it sounds like work, you know. I understand, but that's why the whole way I teach is trying to add variety to that. That's the whole point of naturally varied review. Because I know, number one, you're not going to learn really anything new just by repeating something. But number two, it's boring to do that. The brain is naturally looking for new information because it's trying to refine its understanding of rules. And if you tell the brain something it already knows, it's just like, all right, I know that already. But for a lot of people, this is new information. Like being in bed or in bed with the flu, like that's a specific thing that natives would say. And a lot of non-natives do not know that because they don't take time to kind of learn the more basic things. But Frederick, there's a link for getting that app as well. But if you actually want to learn and not have all those basic grammar errors in your speech, Frederick will fix that for you because it teaches you in the same way, but you actually get to control how you learn and what things mean. All right, last couple of questions here. I love you, Drew. Well, look at that. Always good to be loved. Haninian says, what is the difference between should, would, must, ought to? All right, I'm not answering that here. This is, again, like if you're at the point where you actually want like training and helping you understand things like that, that's what we do in Fluent for Life. Or you can just search my YouTube channel for examples of that kind of stuff. And Jago says, I hear Americans say can and can't, but I can't tell which is when. And this is another thing I talked about in last week's video. You can go back and watch that one. But again, like that's the same kind of example where it's like people looking at something in isolation by itself. Like, oh, natives say can or can't, and nobody speaks like that. Like you can understand from context, like, yes, I can do that. I can do that. No. I can't do that. I can't do that. So even if they sound similar, you're looking at my face and you can see, okay, I know which one he is saying. So for most people, like that is only a problem if you're just listening to someone like in a YouTube video that's trying to like put a little bit of fear into you about like, do you know what these words mean? Can you hear the difference between these? And native speakers would not hear the difference really between those things in isolation either. And we don't learn that way. We don't speak that way. Communication isn't like that. So you don't just hear these things by themselves, can or can't. You would hear them in a context. And so that's how you understand these things a lot more easily. But yes, you can train your ears for that, especially with this, where you're trying to give yourself a transformation of understanding. How to think in English and not translate it in my head. Yeah. Do you have the book? If not, get the book. I explain exactly how that works. Heiser, tell us when you're available again on stream. I don't know. I don't know when the next video will be. It may be next week. It may be not. It may be not. I don't think so. I don't know. What is Frederick? So this is an app where we're doing the same kind of thing here, where I'm trying to help people basically transform their understanding of the language by learning English in English from zero. So Frederick works in the same way. So here we're comparing, like this person is over here, so they are at the bed, and now this person over here is on the bed or in the bed. And Frederick works in a similar way where we're comparing like different scrollable wheels. Like if we have it C-A-T, cat, we can change this letter over here to cab or can or cag. So even something that is not actually a word, you can see how the words change and then actually see the image of what that word means, and a couple of different images. You can scroll through those. So it's all the same thing, like the same idea of getting to play with the language. You get to do that yourself. So you don't have to wait for a teacher. If you play through Frederick, it's just basically a game that teaches you the language. So not like a kind of typical app where they give you like, here's this word or that word, and here's a translation or whatever. The point is to actually let you teach yourself and discover how the language works the same way I'm doing right now. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can click on the link in the description below the video. But yeah, you can get Frederick for Android and iOS. But I spent many years building that because once I had it, then I have this really good system for anybody to learn, whether you are, trying to help a young child learn how to read, or you are an adult and you actually want to not make basic errors. Because actually, like people don't like hearing this, but a lot of the problem that people have with communication is a lot of these basic things like that. Learning bigger words is an easier thing if you don't also struggle with a lot of these basics. But if you just look at like you can take, like copy these comments and put them into ChatGPT and see how it corrects them. But you'll see, there's like quite a few grammar errors here. Heiser, tell us when, okay, I answered that already. Did your children study English at home and at school? Well, I teach them at home. They do get a little bit of English at school, but they're at school in Japan. So most of their day is Japanese. Hi, glad to see you live from Thailand. Nice to see you there. Do you have a speaking course that I can enroll in? Yep, just click on the link in the description below the video. It's called Fluent for Life. You can learn more about that. But I also recommend people read my book before they get the program, just so they can understand exactly why the way I teach or why I teach the way I do. Because like people will join or even before joining Fluent for Life, and they will ask me, like, how does your program help me speak? Like, are we going to talk to each other? And I say, actually, the reason you don't speak right now is because you don't actually feel sure about your words. And you're probably not going to feel more sure about your words by speaking. You might do that, but it's a lot more efficient by learning this way and actually just removing the doubts before you speak. And then speaking is the natural thing you can do after that. So what we're doing in the program is trying to remove any blocks from things you already know. And obviously you learn lots of new vocabulary, but you learn without putting kind of blocks in your way that stop you from using it. So the point is not to get speaking practice with people. Speaking practice is something you can do, but it's much more valuable to spend your time doing this because you don't need to wait for a speaking partner. And wouldn't you rather do that? If you could fix those errors, if you didn't have those issues before conversations, wouldn't speaking be easier? Wouldn't it? Does anybody disagree with that? Let me know. But that's what the book is about. That's what all of my programs are about. The whole point is most education is not helping you speak because it's leaving you with doubts and questions about the language. And if you have doubts and questions when you speak, you won't speak. So if you're in a conversation and you don't know, should I use this preposition or that one, that's why you will struggle. It's really that simple. It's just, I know what I want to say, but I just can't use it. I'm just not quite sure. I've got questions or doubts or whatever. That's because most language learning works like that. It's giving you information, but not transformation. It's not actually changing the way your brain thinks so you understand things in English. And so people asking me questions like, how do I speak fluently? How do I think in English? How do I do that? This is how you do it. And I've been demonstrating that for many years. The book shows you how this works. Fluent for Life does it for you if you want that, Frederick. But all of my programs are designed to give you that. You will feel those moments where like, now I understand how something works so I can use it. Okay, we're trying to get at use here. The point is not just to give you more trivia about grammar rules and things like that. If I can help you understand the language, you will feel sure about using it. I understand native English, but when I try to speak to another person, everything broke. Yeah, and so again, like you have questions and doubts about the language because of how you learned. And so this explains why you can understand but still struggle to speak, because you don't need to feel sure when you're listening. Right now, you can listen to me, maybe you can understand everything I say, but you can't speak like I can. Maybe you can, but often the people watching my videos are here because they can't speak as well as I can. And that makes sense. You're here to learn. But again, the reason that happens is because there are specific doubts and questions. Your brain actually doesn't really know the language very well. That's why you would translate or make grammar mistakes or that kind of thing. So that's why it happens. So if you don't want that to happen, read the book. So all of my videos are basically demonstrating this same idea in different ways. But the book explains everything very simply. You can go through it and you will actually feel like, the book itself is a transformation about how people should learn. But if you didn't have questions and doubts when you speak, wouldn't speaking be better? Can anybody just give me a yes, Let me know. Would speaking be more difficult for anybody if you didn't have those doubts? You can let me know. What is the difference between till and until? That's the thing you can ask ChatGPT about. Again, it's thinking about what's actually useful if you have just like a basic grammar question, like Google or ChatGPT is just fine for answering that. That's a better use of your time. Reading a lot of different texts allows you to get acquainted with a large number of words in the context of their use. Yeah, again, there's a lot of things you can do to learn, but the ultimate thing is removing any doubts. That's the idea. So you could do that in a variety of ways. What do you think about studying English through news and weather reports? Yeah, it's the same thing. Jago, get the book. I'm going to get angry in a minute. You keep asking me questions that are answered in the book. Get the book. Is there a reason you do not have the book? If you do have the book, that answer is in the book. And other question, I've been studying English for many times, and I feel that the same stage of process. Do you have any tips or point of view? Yeah, get the book. I wrote the book for you all. Everybody should be thinking, wait a minute, I've been learning English for a long time. A lot of people have, many years. And it's I could read this one book in one day and completely change how I learn and actually start speaking better today. Why would you not want that? So let me know if you have a reason to not get the book for some reason. I don't know. I mean, everybody here, you should have a few dollars for a book if you've got a phone or a computer or whatever you're using. But yeah, let me know if there's a reason you have not gotten the book yet. When it explains all of this, makes it very simple, shows you exactly what to do, specific steps for everything, like learning pronunciation or grammar or whatever. But this is all very simple. But let me know. Let's see, what is the difference between, anybody asking me questions about random stuff like that, just search my channel. I'm going to buy the book, but tomorrow, because I'm already in bed. I'm very curious what is inside. Well, even if you are in bed, if you're watching this on some kind of phone or device, you click on the link in the description, it will take you to the page, and boom, there you go. You're in the book, and you can start reading the book in bed right now. All right, doesn't taking time to remove doubts take forever? No. And I mean, if you're only going to compare my way of learning versus other people, look at the stories of people who are describing their situation right here in this video. People are already spending years trying to learn stuff and not feel sure about it. But I've already proven it's very quick to feel sure about things, and you can do this with anything. Pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, how to know what to say in conversations, it's all very simple to do. And I share exactly how all of this works in the book. But the point is not okay, I need to go back and fix everything. It's just there are some things that people have problems with, but wouldn't you want to fix those? And it's not a long period of time, but it's much faster than simply repeating information just like I'm demonstrating here. That's why in basically every video I have, I'm showing you very quickly how an aha moment happens. So if I can give you, in 1 minute, you could clear up something, but you could spend years not knowing how to say something because you're unsure about it. But clear that up like that. So no, it does not take more time. Again, you can choose to keep doing things like whatever you are doing right now, you can certainly keep doing it, and maybe, hopefully, you become fluent over time. Maybe you get those aha moments, or you just repeat something so many times that you finally don't forget it. But this is a lot faster and easier. All right, should I record while I imitate and shadow first, or just imitate and shadow first? I don't know. I mean, if you want to record that, you can. But again, the point is, do you understand something or do you not? That's really the only important question. Shadowing and all that, recording yourself should come after you actually feel sure about using something. And then you have a specific question or thing you're looking at, like how do I pronounce this word or that word or something. Again, most people think that output is the key to becoming fluent. And output is more the destination. the right input, and this is not just about getting comprehensible input, it's actually eliminating specific questions you have, like whether about new information or words you already know that you don't feel sure about, but you basically have two choices. Like either you eliminate those doubts or you do not. But if you do not do that, then you're probably going to have more trouble speaking. So it's very simple to do. It doesn't take a long time. It's much faster than most people are learning anyway. So I don't know why you would choose this way that's clearly not working, for most people over this one. I don't know. All right, but look at that. I think we are done though. We got one more here. What do you think about imitating shadowing before I understand 100% of meaning? Or should I wait until I understand it? Yeah, I mean, like, what is the purpose of shadowing? Try to think about it like that. Like, shadowing is going to do what? Like, are you trying to shadow so you can sound like a particular person? That is a thing, that's like a question your brain is asking, like, how do I pronounce this? Or I want to sound like a person. So the problem is not saying shadowing is bad. And you don't necessarily need to understand everything completely. You could, maybe as you're learning something, you're still getting examples of it. And I'm not trying to be strict about what order you do. Like, okay, you only have to understand something perfectly and then you go back and repeat it. It's just, I'm trying to make it clearer for learners about what they should spend their time doing. And a lot of people are doing output kind of stuff because they think output produces fluency. And the problem is that it can, but often it does not, because output only is producing fluency if it's removing doubt from you. So, you don't have to like get it perfect and then try to repeat or whatever, shadow whatever you want to do. But it is a lot easier if you're thinking about what problems are actually stopping you in conversations. So most people are not struggling when they speak because they don't shadow enough. That's not really an issue for a lot of people. But they are stuck, like, I don't know what this word means, or I can't figure out what the correct thing to say in this situation is. Those are all things that you can fix before you speak. So shadowing is like, it's kind of useful for that, but people talk about shadowing because most people don't really focus on the actual problem, which is you not feeling sure about what you want to say. That's it. So shadowing can help. I don't want to say shadowing is not a good idea, but for most people, shadowing is not the problem. And could you please tell me more about your Fluent for Life program? Very interested and would like to buy it. Thank you so much for the help. Jack, well, first, read the book, and then that will tell you. If you like the book and you want help with it after that, that will also show you how Fluent for Life works. But if you want to know more about Fluent for Life specifically, just click on the link in the description below. Well, Tsubasa there, look at that right at the end. Maybe you start work later today. Would it be strange if I used formal language in everyday communication? I don't know what you mean by that. Like which formal language and which situation? I don't want to give you a kind of like thing to think about. I don't know, without a specific example, but not necessarily. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. It depends on what situation and what vocabulary you're using, but pay attention to the people around you and how they talk for that situation. At work, some people, even in a professional setting, use casual language. That happens. Some people, even in a casual setting, they speak more, academically or professionally or whatever. Just look at the situation. Try not to think about like a rule, like information, and think about what's actually appropriate for this particular situation. All right, look at that. We got to the end of the video. But if you are learning for a long time, you still feel stuck, and you would like to not feel stuck anymore, that's exactly what the book shows you how to do. But you can also send us an email at info@englishanyone.com if you have any questions about the book or the programs or anything else. But remember, if you're just spending time getting information, and you can feel it if something is actually helping you or not. So if you're learning and you're just like, I don't get it, I don't understand what this is, if you spend 20 minutes watching a video and you can't get your questions answered by the teacher or by the video itself or whatever, that video is not helping you get fluent. And maybe you learn more later that helps you understand things. That can happen. But in general, a lot of information is just It's just more trivia for people. So if you want to get fluent faster, it certainly is possible to do that and think in English and use the right words at the right time and all the things people generally want to do. Get the book. It shows you exactly how that works. All right. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me. We'll see. I don't know when the next video will be, but most of my videos are, again, talking about the same kinds of ideas. And you can see how people continue to have the same questions. It just means read the book. Understand what's going on. If you really want to get fluent, that's what's going to help you. That's why I made it. I spent all this time for you to make it for you. Writing a book is hard work. It's like the most difficult thing I've ever had to do because I'm trying to take 20 years of ideas and put it down into something simple that can help people really get fluent. But it works, and people are enjoying the book so far. All right. Have a fantastic day. See if we can turn this off here. What side is that? Over here? Bye-bye.